Welcome to Haunted Escapes with Chris and Diane.
This podcast will talk about strange and mysterious stories from around the world.
Some will be about places we've been and experienced for ourselves,
as well as things we've learned and read about, including hauntings, folklore, and cryptids.
Join us on our Haunted Escapes. Welcome to Haunted Escapes with Chris and Diane.
Hello.
Today we're going to be doing an episode talking about Skinwalkers.
Okay, I think I know a little bit about them, but I'm going to see what you have to say on these.
So, first, I'm not an expert on this by any means. This is just something that you watch a lot of YouTube videos out there, and everybody, this is a skinwalker, my dog's a skinwalker, there's a skinwalker in my yard, and they're from all over the country, so...
They're saying that your dog is a skinwalker?
No, some people have videos on there saying that their dogs are skinwalkers.
So they're saying that Grayson, our dog, could be a skinwalker.
Well, they're not saying our dog is, but they're saying that their dogs are.
I'll have to look up some traits and see how to tell if your dog is a skinwalker.
Yes. So the things that I've been reading have been, this one guy I was watching a video and he was talking all about the skinwalkers, and he is Navajo, and he was saying how, again, all these people say that there's these skinwalkers all over, and in their religion, their lore, they're really only in the lands of the Navajo Nation. That's kind of where they're centered at.
Okay.
And the Navajo Nation is made up, it's within the boundaries of these 4 sacred mountains. And the 4 sacred mountains are... I'm not even going to try to pronounce the names because I'll just massacre it. But essentially, they assign the mountains a color and a direction. So they have one that is... They're named after the 4 cardinal directions, and they each have a color. So one is blue, which is in the east.
Okay.
The other is yellow in the south. And then there's a black one in the west, and then there's a white one in the north. And they surround their areas. They're in Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona.
Okay.
So what this video was talking about was how these Navajo, the whole skinwalker thing, it was in their lore and their legends and their histories. They were not always evil individuals, which everybody says they are nowadays in TV and everything. It would be, from what this guy was saying, he was talking about how they would be medicine men who would, through training and all kinds of rituals, they would be able to, sacredly, they could take on the characteristics of animals so they could get around and they could do things to help people.
Oh, so they could just move faster and stealthier and stuff.
Yeah, and they would use these things so they could help people and do good things. But then apparently there are always those people who want to try to find quick ways to get around. They want to find shortcuts.
Yeah.
So they would commune with these dark spirits and stuff, and they would tell them how they would be able to give them shortcuts to learn how to do the shape-shifting.
So then is there good skinwalkers and bad skinwalkers?
I mean, I would think possibly, maybe, but I'm not an expert on this. This is just something I was watching. It just said that they were not always bad, and now it's just kind of, there probably are, then I guess.
Okay.
But I don't know. You'd have to ask somebody who's Navajo, and they could tell you a lot more than me. I'm just going over things that I've read, and it's an interesting topic. And it says how these dark spirits told these people that basically they would give them shortcuts to perform these rituals. Well, the shortcuts to perform the rituals, apparently, one of the things they have to do is you have to sacrifice somebody close to you, whether it's a lover, a brother, a sister, a child.
Oh, wow.
And then once you did that, there were a bunch of other things that you would have to do on top of that, which I don't know what they are. It's
a secret
Navajo.
Navajo.
Yeah, so I'm not going to go acting like I know anything. I just these few things I read about, research says that this was one of the things that you would have to do. And then once you would do it, a lot of the things are like necromancing type things. So, like, they make all kinds of weapons out of bone darts, and they can make this powder where they take, like, a skull and they crush it, and I guess they do some kind of ritual around it.
A human skull?
Yeah. And then they can take, like, do like a ritual, and then they can blow it on your face, and it can cause you to forget where you're at. It can cause all kinds of curses. That it's like a curse can be put on you. And then the only way you can actually get rid of it is you'd have to quickly find a medicine man who would be able to do a ritual that would be able to counter the curse. So it's all really bad stuff. And then, like, they have bone darts they can, like, do poison people. And then I read a couple things that said that there was, like, necrophilia involved. Whether or not it is, I don't know. These are things that I've just read. And again, I'm not Navajo, so I'm not trying to say I know these things. This is just stuff that I've read. If anybody listening to this is Navajo and knows these things and is able to actually share it, I would be welcome to hear about it, because there's a lot of people who just don't know anything about it. And everybody thinks that there's a skinwalker here. My YouTube, I mean, just look at the scary videos on YouTube. There's skinwalkers in almost every horror thread.
So I've heard about Skinwalker Ranch also. Has there been any actual skinwalkers seen there? Or is that more UFOs?
Well, there was a book written by some people who worked there when they were doing, like, research, and they wrote down that, like, there's a story. The one story is when the family first moves in, the Sherman family, they move in, and they're, like, their first day there, they're unpacking, and they see this giant wolf that comes walking near them, and it comes walking over very lackadaisical, very, like, mellow, and they don't know what to do. Then the wolf comes over them, and it's, like, docile, and it seems almost friendly, and it comes up to them, and they actually, like, some of them are petting it and stuff like that, and they think that maybe it's just tame or it's a person's pet.
It could have just been domesticated.
Yeah. Well, then the wolf happens to see a calf sticking its head out of the pen, and immediately the wolf goes after this calf, and it's trying to locks its jaws on its head, and it's trying to pull it out of the pen. And the guy they're trying to hit the wolf with, like, shovels, boards, and it's not flinching. It doesn't feel anything. So then the guy...
He was hungry.
Yeah, right. Then the guy calls for his son to go get his gun. And his son brings him, he's got, like, a .45 Magnum.
Yeah.
And he shoots the wolf, and it doesn't even phase it.
Did he hit the wolf?
Yeah, it says he hits the wolf, but it, like, doesn't even seem to phase it. So then he takes another shot, and he shoots it point blank. And again, it just jostles the wolf back a little bit.
He just shakes it off.
Yeah, and then the wolf, like, backs up a little bit, and it's still, like, staring at them. Well, then the rancher, he's worried about the wolf being on the land, so he calls his son to get his rifle.
Yeah.
And he fires at the wolf again. He shoots the wolf with the rifle, and it doesn't seem to phase it. It just, like, flinches. So then he takes a second shot, and he says he's, like, really close, and he fires a second shot, and apparently where it hits, the guy says he sees, like, a chunk of skin from the wolf fall out. Ew. But the thing just, like, shakes it off, and then just turns and goes walking off towards the woods.
And that's one of a characteristic of a skinwalker, is that they're, like, hard to kill?
Yeah, apparently there's really only one way to kill them, and it's some kind of... They have a weakness. It's made with ash, and you have to have, like, a bullet dipped in ash, or there are other things like that you can use to kill one.
Wow.
And this guy obviously don't know that, so he's just firing at it, thinking it's a regular wolf.
Yeah.
Well, then he gets his son, and they decide they're going to track it.
Yeah.
So they track it through the woods, they follow the footprints, and the footprints lead all the way through the woods up to, like, this river. When he gets to the river, all of a sudden the footprints, they disappear. There's no more footprints. They don't see the animal anywhere. They're looking all over. They don't know where it went.
Could he just, like, went for a swim?
It doesn't really say if it goes for a swim, like, maybe. But he says that it looks like the animal is just gone.
And there wasn't like any blood or anything?
No, there's no blood trails,
Wow.
nothing. The guy just tracks the footprints. And then by now it's like getting dark, and he doesn't want to be in the woods in the dark with this thing around.
Mm.
So they head back to the ranch, and one of the versions of the story goes that on his way back he stumbles across the area where he shot the wolf.
Yeah.
And he finds the skin.
Ooh.
Like the flesh, but when he goes to like check the flesh and investigate it, here it's like cadaver flesh. It's like dead.
Oh. So he's a zombie skinwalker wolf?
Well, it's like, yeah, like the thing is dead, which he doesn't really understand because he doesn't understand how it could be like that, because it was alive when he shot it. So then he walks, so they go back to the house and they check into the house and they find out that here the house has all kinds of locks on the doors and the windows, and there's chains coming off of the side where they think they used to keep big guard dogs because of these things that happened on the ranch. So the family locks all the doors and everything, and then they just wait for this creature, and then it doesn't really talk about them seeing that wolf anymore. At least I haven't read the book, but from the videos, this is when most of the videos, they don't talk about the wolf again.
Okay.
But then they talk about, like, the family on the ranch would hear noises, and they would hear, like, tapping and scratching on the walls.
But when you turn into a skinwalker, are you still, like, alive, or does it, like, I don't know, kill your body?
So, one of the things that I was reading, it says that, essentially, I think it works where they'll, like, they kill an animal.
Okay.
And then by wearing the animal's skins, they can take on the traits of that animal. So the skinwalker is a living person, but they take on the skins of the animal, and it endows them with these supernatural powers. But then also part of, like, their bargain they make when they do this spell, they're almost like immortal, but they have to. The one story I read says that the only way they can stay alive is they have to constantly kill things.
Oh, wow.
So it's like you have to constantly kill something, and it'll keep rejuvenating your life force. You can stay alive and all that stuff. So, yeah. So then back to the Skinwalker farm thing. So then the story talks about they see, it doesn't really go into too many more Skinwalker type things after that. Then it goes into, like, they think UFOs and these lights that show up on the ranch, and they have all kinds of, like, the steer move from one location to another, and they don't know how they could have done it because there's no tracks or any kind of, like, showing that these animals moved, but they'll be in this place at one point, and then they find them, and they're, like, in the pen at one part, and then they happen to find them over in, like, this shed later on, and they don't know how they got there.
So they were just, like, transported?
Yeah, and the animals are, like, dazed and stunned and stuff, and then they wind up splashing. I think the story was the guy splashes water on it, then the animals, like, go crazy, and they're freaking out, and they break open the little shed thing that they're being kept in.
So then is it the reason they call it Skinwalker Ranch, is that just because of the wolf incident?
I think that, and I think the location is in an area where they talk about where, like, these creatures can, like, be around. The people who wrote the book, when they were, like, they questioned the guy who lived there, a lot of the things he says don't really match up with what the book says.
Oh, so it's, like, two different
So
versions.
it's kind of, yeah, so it's like, a reporter asked him about the wolf incident, and the guy says that it's similar, but it didn't actually happen that way. So it's like, is it real? Is it not real? Who really knows? And then there are things that he says that were explainable and that no, they didn't happen, but then there are other things like the weird lights that they say they actually did happen, and they're written down that they happened. But then with all this investigation, nobody has caught any kind of real evidence about any of it.
That's crazy.
So it's all just kind of up in the air. It's hearsay. It's a story. And then the guy who owns it now, he opened it up to the Sci-Fi Channel and all that, and they now have their little people who go over there, and they do their shows, and they're making all kinds of money off of it. So now it really makes it look is it real, or is it just these people are just trying to make money on it?
See, I've heard about the Skinwalker Ranch forever, so I would have thought that there was tons of evidence coming from it.
Yeah, you would think it, but no, it's all just like word of mouth. It's like people saying, "Oh yeah, we saw that. Yeah, this happened. Yeah, that happened." But all the real thing, it's like really crappy photos that don't show anything.
Well, that's disappointing.
Yeah, I mean the stories. They're stories. You don't know. It's just like all the stories out there. Are they real? Are they not real? There's no evidence like ghosts. You believe in ghosts, but there's no definitive proof that shows it. Now people will have videos and things, and they'll say this is real, but then you're all going to have a skeptic or a scientist. Well, no, it's this that's causing that. So it's the same type of thing. That's how it is with all these types of paranormal things. But
well, I guess the eyewitness testimony is the best evidence you could have for stuff like that.
Yeah, but eyewitnesses, they can be doing it just to make stuff up because they want to get famous, or they want to get profit off of it. Like the people who wrote this book, they made money off of it. Because they sold they sold the books, and they made money off of the books. So it's like, is it real, or is it just people just trying to make a living off of these stories and stuff?
And the Skinwalker Ranch is in Utah, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Is it near like any government testing facility?
I don't know. I don't really know. That's also a thing that people can always say, that it's the government doing stuff, and apparently the government actually stationed people at Skinwalker Ranch for like 2 years
because of all of the reports coming out of it.
To see if they could find anything, and they didn't really find anything either. Or if they did, they're keeping it all under lock and key, and nobody knows. It's all hearsay. Nobody knows for sure. You can't see it. It's just yes, I did. No, I didn't. You got proof? Well, no. It's just what I tell you.
So why don't they just come out and say it? How big of a panic could there be?
Oh, come on. You know, if aliens are real, and if all of a sudden it came out that they were, and that they were here doing all kinds of stuff, oh, come on. It would be wide-scale panic.
Well, you'd have your believers, you'd have the people who want to be abducted, and you have the people who'd be afraid, and then you'd have the people who just, they're here, so what?
Yeah, but if you think about aliens and stuff coming, if an alien's coming to this planet, it's not going to be to say, oh, hey, how you doing? Let's join, like Star Trek, come join our Federation of planets. No, it's going to be the same way anybody goes to a new area to colonize. They're going to want to take whatever you have. It's going to be for wealth and to get resources. And if aliens are real, and if they do travel here, then it's going to be because they want something that our planet has that their planet doesn't. I don't think they're going to come here to be friendly. If an alien invasion happens, I believe that it would be, they would literally come down and they would probably wipe us out or enslave us, and then they would just harvest the planet for whatever materials they need.
Well, I remember seeing a show, I believe it was a documentary back in the late 80s, early 90s, about a little lovable alien that comes and crashes into the roof of this family's house. He's a little gold color, and he's from Melmac. And I like to think that all aliens are like that.
Yeah, Alf is a documentary.
But I don't know. The way I see it is that these beings are supposed to be so more advanced than us. Why would they need to have Earth?
And that's what I'm saying. If they're coming here, it's because they need something that we have on this planet that they don't have on theirs. Anyway, this is supposed to be about Skinwalkers, and we're talking about aliens. So, this whole Skinwalker thing, from this guy who I was watching and a couple of things I was reading. Apparently, like, these Skinwalkers, their power is kind of limited. It's limited to within the Navajo lands. So
you can't go to, like, Canada.
No. So, like, the guy says, like, people over in, like, New York or Maine saying they got Skinwalkers running around. He's like, for a Skinwalker to really be able to get out of the Navajo lands and traveled all the way over here away from their sacred mountains, which is where they derive all their powers and stuff, He said they would have to be like insanely powerful. We're talking like supervillain powerful. And he's like, the guy says he's like, it's very unlikely. He's like, can I say it's impossible? No, he's like, but it's very unlikely. He said the Skinwalkers they're mainly in that area.
So it has to be within those 4 mountains.
Yeah, because like the Navajo and a lot of, not just them, just a lot of different peoples, they derive power through, they worship the earth and these mountains. I mean, mountains are a thing of power in a lot of different religions. I mean, Mount Fuji, you have Olympus. Even with Christianity, it's Mount Sinai, which is where the ark gets crashed on or whatever they think.
Yeah.
It's because these are points that are closest to the sky, and when you're on the ground and you don't know any better, you look up and you see it's all the way up there in the sky. You think that that's where God is, the gods, whatever, and that's the closest point. So they feel that they can get power through that. But yeah, so like all these, the guy, he says, he's like, so if your dog or your cat's doing anything weird or strange, he's like, it most likely isn't a skinwalker. He's like, it's probably just your pet doing something weird. You should go get them looked at. But I mean, the stories are cool, but I know if I believe in them, I ain't gonna say no. I mean, who am I to say if it's real or not? I don't know. I'm just a measly speck in the world. And it's one thing, like scientists and stuff, they think that they know everything and that everything in the world, they figured it all out. I don't believe we have. I believe that there are mysteries and there are things in the world that are just unknown. And you don't know. You don't know if it's real. Anything could be possible.
So would a skinwalker come after you for a reason, or is it a thing where they're doing their own thing and you'll just happen upon one?
Well, that depends. Some of them, there's this one story that I read, another skinwalker story. It was about this one. He was a farmer, a Navajo farmer. And he was traveling from his house it was somewhere in like Nevada or something, and he was going to New Mexico, and or regular Mexico, and he's traveling by, and he winds up coming across, he like sneaks up on this person who it looks like, he sees like in the distance, it looks like a coyote, but it's like larger than a coyote should be.
Okay.
And it just looks off, so he goes around the back, and he's like sneaking up in order to get a view of it. And he gets real close to it, and he realizes that it's some kind of a strange creature, and he like shoots it with a gun, and then he runs away, and he escapes. And when he goes to his family tell him that, well, now that he's done that, he can never leave to go back to his home because that was a skinwalker, and now because he did that skinwalker's family is going to be hunting for him. So they'll never like let him rest until they can find him and kill him. So he has to stay here where they're at.
So he has to stay off of Navajo lands, or
pretty much, because if he goes back over there, they'll be able to catch him and they'll be able to kill him.
So as long as he stays away, then he's safe.
Yeah, because that's where their power is derived from. That's where they gain their abilities. And to go outside of that, they lose the powers that are like bestowed on them.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and like as far as if you look at it from spiritual and you believe that it is like this ritual that they do and they can learn these things, but then you can also look at it from a skeptic's perspective, or from something like looking at it historically wise, and it very well could have gotten a start because they killed, people who would kill animals. They would wear their skins for different things, and even if they don't get real, like, supernatural powers, they're learning, they know how to use herbs and concoctions to make things, and they probably use them, and then they can maybe make some kind of a tincture or something that'll make them have more stamina, so now they can wear a deer's skin, and they're running around on all fours after taking this tincture, and it makes it look as if this human has now gotten the powers of this animal.
It must smell it.
Well, I'm sure after they do it, they clean it and add stuff. I don't think they're just gutting it and putting the dirty animal skins on. But yeah, there's a bunch of really cool stories about skinwalkers they're actually in the Navajo lands. There's another one where there's this guy who he's hunting.
Yeah.
And he's on the Navajo lands, and he winds up going out, and he like feels uneven, like person has like they own land in this area.
Yeah.
And the guy's a hunter, and he's friends with the guy, so he lets him onto his grounds. So he goes in there, and he's going to go hunting for deer.
Okay.
Well, once he gets out there, he's like waiting for this deer, and he doesn't hear anything, and it gets real eerie. So he journeys out he's like, well, instead of just waiting, I want to go look. So he goes out and he climbs a tree, and as he's in the tree, he sees this deer come walking over, but it's walking like it's got a weird gait, like the way it's moving is strange.
Okay.
And the deer like walks up to a tree, and it starts like smashing its head against the tree.
Oh.
Until like brain splatters on the tree.
Oh.
And then the deer eats this brain fluid or whatever, and then as it does it, the guy says in the story, he says the deer turns and it's looking right at him, and it stands up on two legs, and it's like looking at him. And something that these skinwalkers have, they have the ability to like read minds and to like telepathy, like go into your mind and speak to you that way. And he says he's staring at this deer, and the thing's on its hind legs. It looks right at him, and he hears in his head a voice coming from the deer that says that I see you.
Oh no.
And he said after it happens, he's petrified.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to go down out of the tree, so he stays in the tree, and he just stays there all night long, and he dozes off. And then after however long, when he thinks that it's safe enough and that this creature, this deer-like creature is gone, he gets down off of he runs down the tree, and he takes off, and he runs away.
I would too.
And then he contacts the guy who owns the land, and he's like talking to the guy, and he's like, look, there's some kind of a person there, and they looked at me, and they talked to me, and the guy's like, that's impossible, you're the only one on the land, it's my land, I have a camera at the gate,
and
you're the only one who had the key, and we didn't see nobody come in and out other than you.
That's crazy.
So yeah, that's another one of the stories, and that's another, was it a skinwalker or not?
But if it was a skinwalker, would he mark that guy now and try to find him?
Well, usually I think they have to use their potions or their powders or something to like mark you. This is just something where he saw it and looked at him and, scared him. And then once it left, he just took off and he just didn't go back to that land to hunt again.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
And neither would I. But yeah, and then there's all kinds of stories like that. But essentially, yeah, the big thing with these skinwalker stories is that according to this YouTube guy and these things I was reading, that their power is really kind of limited to that area. Now, whether there's another creature out there that we don't know what it is, and people just now there are like shapeshifters. All cultures have shapeshifter stories. I mean, you have werewolves, the dog men, all kinds of stuff like that. So people might think that it's a skinwalker, but according to this stuff that I was reading that are written by people who were like from the Navajo Nation, the only time you really got to worry about it being a real skinwalker is in their lands, because that's where they live, that's where they're from, that's where they're located, that's where their power comes from. So yeah, it was very interesting, and I was just reading it, and I kind of went down the rabbit hole. I was watching a bunch of videos all about it, and I was like, you know what, I just touch on this on the podcast. So that's why we decided I would do a skinwalker podcast. And now if anybody out there thinks that they've ran into a skinwalker or whatnot, please tell us in the comments, email us your stories, and I would very much like to hear about them.
That was very interesting. They're a lot scarier than I thought they were.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact, if you're over in those lands and there's somebody just following you dressed like that is just weird enough. And if they actually do have the ability to take on these creatures, these animals, like abilities, it's some scary stuff. But it's something I don't really think that the native Indians really speak of, because I think it's like taboo type thing, and if you talk about it, the creatures can like find you.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Okay.
But yeah, so I just thought it was a really interesting set of stories. The Navajo, there were another tribe called the Ute tribe, and they were at war with the Navajo.
Okay.
And the Ute tribe believe that like the Navajo have stationed like skinwalkers in and around their areas to like harass them and stuff, because they were at war with each other for years.
Oh wow!
So it's just interesting. There's a lot of other stuff that you would have to take in, and I don't really want to get into it because again, I'm not a Navajo, I'm not Native American, and I don't want to really mess anything up, or I don't want to offend anybody. It's just it was a stories that I thought were very interesting, and the fact that the guy was saying how it's like they really wouldn't be all the way over here on the East Coast; they would be in that area.
Yeah.
It's like,
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I just figured I would just bring that up and talk about it. So if you liked this podcast and this story, please tell us in the comments. And yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to say. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that I could go into, but we're already hitting over a half hour, and I don't want to run this too long. So I would recommend do a little bit of research on your own if you're interested in it. Look it up, and yeah, there's so many interesting folklore and legends and stories out there. The world's a very interesting place, and there's so many things, so many cultures, beliefs, and stuff that I find interesting for you to like look up and learn about. So anyway, that's everything that I'm going to say for today. Thank you for listening to Haunted Escapes with Chris and Diane.
Yes, rate us on Spotify, give us a like, join our Facebook page, follow us on all the social medias except for Twitter. We're not on Twitter yet. I'm going to try to get that done this weekend. And we also have merchandise. If you are a fan of our Facebook page, I have links all over the place for our merchandise.
Yeah, you can go through the links. The website is called...
It's on TeePublic. You could just do a search for Haunted Escapes with Chris and Diane on there also. We have a lot of cool designs, phone cases, t-shirts, hoodies. I think you'd like it.
Yeah, Diane made up most of the little artwork on the shirts and everything, so that's all her ideas. We have some with our logo, and yeah, so if you're interested, by all means go check it out, and thank you once again for joining us on our Haunted Escapes.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.